It's my pleasure to actually talk to you on behalf of all of the Energy and Water Ombudsman of New South Wales, of Australia rather, and have Jane Perez, our new Energy and Water Ombudsman Queensland, with us here today, and talk about the work that we've been doing with respect to access to EDR. So one slide, just to give you an overview of what I'm going to talk about. ANZI is the Australian and New Zealand Energy and Water Ombudsman Network. We get together by phone a couple of times a year and face-to-face a couple of times a year. And since I was appointed Energy and Water Ombudsman New South Wales in November 14, a big focus of us, and from the first meeting that I attended in February 2015, was on exempt entities and embedded networks, and the fact that we were answering more phone calls from customers who, depending on which state you lived in, could either be assisted by the Energy and Water Ombudsman or they couldn't be, simply because they'd purchased or they'd moved into a unit that was part of an embedded network. And of course, Energy Ombudsman were established around Australia starting in 1995 with EWOV, and then my office in 1998, and then other offices following that, to provide access to justice for all energy customers. And all of a sudden, many energy customers, and a growing number year over year, are not getting the assistance that they need. And so we identified, and our boards identified, that we needed to do something about that. We progressed in 2015, and in 2016 we actually agreed that we should get someone to write a report to do some independent investigation on our behalf to actually measure this gap in access to external dispute resolution and make some recommendations. And so Joe Benvenuti and Kate Whiteland did that report, started in April 2016 and delivered it in June of that year, and made some recommendations about the gap and the fact that more and more consumers would fall through it, and that wasn't appropriate. So we've been working on an agenda together since then. Now what this requires, for me in New South Wales, all energy customers can come to my office. Through New South Wales legislation, it was made many years ago that if you lived in an embedded network, that you could get help from the Energy Ombudsman. The problem is, whoever's running that embedded network is not a member of E1, and therefore we can't involve them in the dispute resolution process, and we can't get them to pay for their complaint, like we would if they were a member of the scheme. So this was originally set up for the purpose of the many people who live in residential parks. And E1's members had no problem with dealing with those complaints. There was somewhere between 80 and 100 each year, and these were consumers who were not actually going to be customers of the members of the scheme, the retailers that were members. They were people that were living in a residential park, and so therefore those members didn't have a problem with the costs of those complaints being smeared across all of the membership. But of course, when that expands and you're looking at all the Meriton buildings, all the Westfield buildings, all the other new apartments, all the long-term apartment buildings that are now being turned into embedded networks, of course that's taking customers away from the members of the scheme, the retailers that are there. And why should they pay for those complaints? It's not fair. And how can we resolve them when the actual person or organisation that's causing the complaint is not actually part of the dispute resolution process? For other ombudsmen though, those customers are just outside of jurisdiction. So they need to refer them directly onto the Office of Fair Trading or Consumer Affairs, whatever it may be. The last thing that any ombudsman ever wants to say to a consumer is, sorry, we can't help, or we're referring you on somewhere else. It's fine if it's a telco complaint or an ISP complaint, because we'll refer them to the telecommunications industry ombudsman. But when it's an energy complaint and we can't help, or we can't really resolve, I can't make a binding decision, then really what's the point? And it takes away from the reputation of not only industry ombudsman, but actually the energy sector overall. So it's a gap that needs to be fixed. In July or August 2016, the Australian Energy Regulator, so Sarah Proudfoot, and the Chair, Paula Comboy, actually came to an ANZOA meeting and said, yep, we see the point, we see there's got to be some change, we need to change the guideline. Let's start working with you so that we can do this, so that it's a consistent process and it's effective across Australia, knowing that in Victoria they're working with the Essential Services Commission to achieve the same outcome. The AER have advised us they're working towards the retail exemption guideline change from about the 1st of July this year. That's only 4 months away. I'm not that confident that it will happen in that time frame. There's a lot of consultation that needs to occur, and in fact we need to do a lot of work. We need to change our constitution, we need to change our charter, we need to change our jurisdiction, and that really is the same in every other state. So ANZI are doing that work together. We could all go and get and engage different consultants at quite a cost. We'd prefer to be able to work together where we need some independent consultant advice to be able to share that cost. Because after all, it's the same members of our schemes who are paying for that. So we need to be effective for them. At the same time, we need to keep resolving complaints and doing what we do on a day-to-day basis. So that's really where we currently are. I'm sort of, I guess, in the back of my mind thinking the guideline might change from the 1st of January 2018. It might be July this year, or it might be July 2018, but we're certainly well on the journey of doing that work. You may be aware that the network guideline, exemption guideline, has been changed by the AER. That was changed, I think, about December 2015. I'm just looking at Rory, my policy manager, and he's nodding, so that was the time frame. It's the wording of that we're actually working through at the moment, and we'll be meeting with representatives from the AER to talk about that, because it's as if we can invite these exempt network companies to be members, or alternatively, if they could get dispute resolution on energy matters through someone like the Office of Fair Trading or maybe the Small Business Commissioner, that would be another option. Once again, we're not trying to build any empires, but we'd like to be the energy dispute resolution one-stop shop so that customers, small business or residential, can come to us and all get the same attention, the same type of dispute resolution process. But happy to work with Small Business Commissioner and other agencies at the same time. So that's really the background. That's where we've got to now. The next steps for ANZI, we're actually meeting in South Australia at Sandy Canali's office on Thursday of this week. So Jane from Queensland, Cynthia and her chair Paul from Victoria, myself and Julian Disney, my chair, and Sandy and of course his chair, will be having a meeting, and we're focusing on two things. Firstly is what changes we need to make to charters, jurisdictions, constitutions, and how we can do that effectively and consistently, knowing that there are some variances in what we do or the way we go about our business through our current charters and constitution. And the second one is how these entities and how other new members actually join our schemes. One of the big risk concerns that we have, and we've grown in membership, we have 51 members at the moment. 18 months ago, 2 years ago, that was like 38 or something like that. If you go back to 1998, originally it was 5 or 6 members. But it seems to be, and at our next board meeting at the end of next week, there'll be another membership application going up for the board to approve. And we've seen some applications for membership coming across from members that when we look at their financials, and we want to have a look at their financials from the point of view as they need to pay our bills. And New South Wales, my office in 2008, got wounded very hard, and so did the members when Jack Green crashed. And we wore a lot of debt. We still get Jack Green complaints now, because if Jack Green default listed somebody way back then that customer might be finding that out now and coming to us for dispute resolution. Of course, Jack Green are long gone. So my board really looks at those applications about whether these companies who have been authorised by the AER, and in time might be those that have exemptions, really stand up to the muster as a member, and whether we're concerned about whether they can pay E1 bills in due course. We know what happened last week with Earth Energy. That affects, again, the reputation of all of us. So that's what we're discussing this Thursday in South Australia, and deciding, what the next steps are. For New South Wales, my board has a strategy plan or half day on, I think it's either the 8th or the 9th of March. And the topic is exempt entities and bringing them into E1 as members. So we'll keep you updated. There'll be, I guess, information going up on our website. We'll have to consult the same as the AER will as they're going about the process of changing guidelines. If you have any questions, happy to take them now, or give us a call, or just watch this space, because it really is changing day by day. And of course, we all have our mind too to the items that Lauren and Jared talked about, because that's business as usual for us as well. So thank you.